Thank you. We're ready to get started. No problem. Thank you all for coming. I'm Ann Arbor City Clerk Jacqueline Boudry, and it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the unveiling ceremony of our new state historical marker honoring the LGBTQ history here in Ann Arbor. Before I turn the program over to our MC, Councilmember Travis Radina, I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge the staff and the process they took to get us to this day. Others will talk in detail about the events of the last 50 or more years, but I do want to thank the city team who supported this idea and the application to install the marker here at City Hall. A few years ago, Councilmember Radina reached out about how the city might recognize the historic 1974 election of Kathy Kozachenko. The city clerk's office asked if we could take the lead on this project and began to research ideas and the history of the elections and the city council of the 1970s. Our team kept coming back to the idea that a state historical marker would document the entire series of events: the historic passage of the Human Rights Ordinance, the bravery of Councilmembers DeGrieck and Nancy Wechsler, Jim Toy's advocacy, and finally, Kathy's election as the first openly LGBTQ candidate elected to public office in the United States. Thank you. We applied to the state in late 2023 and received notice in March of 2024 that our application was approved as state marker site number 769. I'd like to thank Kristen Vanderlucht and Jacob Adams from the city clerk's office for all of their work to research and prepare the application. City Administrator Milton Dehoney and Sustainability Director Dr. Missy Stoltz for supporting the project as part of the city's bicentennial year. And finally, Rachel Rickinger from the city clerk's office, Jonathan Gomer from the mayor's office, Joanna Satterley from city communications, and Doug Thompson from facilities for their work coordinating today's events and ensuring the marker was installed. And of course, thank you to Councilmember Radina for your leadership and partnership from the beginning and through this entire process. So for now, please join me in welcoming Councilmember Radina to the podium as the MC for the remainder of the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie, for those thoughtful words and for helping set the tone for today. I am Ann Arbor's Mayor Pro Tem, Travis Radina, and I am honored to serve as the MC for this morning. First and foremost, I also want to thank the absolutely exceptional members of our city staff who made today possible. From envisioning and initiating this process to shepherding it through from start to finish and gathering us all here today to celebrate our rich LGBTQ+ history in Ann Arbor. Thank you to all of you. Thank you. To our honorees, former council members Kathy Kozachenko and DeGrieck, who have joined us here today, and Nancy Wechsler, who could not join us but is watching remotely. On behalf of the more than 1,300 out LGBTQ elected officials currently serving in the United States today, thank you for being the first so that there could be a second. The three of you redefined what was possible for LGBTQ people seeking to run for office and demonstrated that LGBTQ leaders deserve a seat at the table. Thank you for blazing a trail for thousands of LGBTQ people to serve in public office, including three of us currently serving on the Ann Arbor City Council, the chairwoman of our County Board of Commissioners, our county sheriff, a member of Ann Arbor's state legislative delegation, several of our local judges, and our state's attorney general, and that's just acknowledging a few with direct ties to our community. Thank you for making it possible for me to stand here this morning as a proud out gay elected official who is able to celebrate and honor our shared history. Thank you. Today is also a day of mixed emotion because I am incredibly saddened that my dear friend and mentor, the late Jim Toy, is not here to celebrate this moment with us. We'll hear from a representative of the Jim Toy Community Center a bit later, but I briefly just wanted to personally acknowledge how truly lucky we all are to have benefited from Jim's immense contributions to the LGBTQ civil rights movement, to the University of Michigan, and to the greater Ann Arbor community. For his entire adult life, Jim dedicated nearly all of his time to ensuring that the rest of us could live our lives openly, safely, and as our true selves. His mark on our community is indelible, and his influence on the LGBTQ civil rights movement is immeasurable. He was a warrior for the marginalized, an unrelenting activist, and a man of purpose, who never wavered in his commitment to human rights, who never faltered when facing down the powerful, and who never compromised in his belief that each and every one of us had equal value. I remain incredibly grateful each and every day to have known him, and am humbled to join in honoring him today through his inclusion in this historic marker. Many of us are incredibly fortunate to live in Ann Arbor and in Michigan, which currently grants us the privilege of recognizing and celebrating LGBTQ rights in history this morning. It is not news to any of you that across the country, the LGBTQ community is experiencing renewed legislative, political, and cultural attacks. Here, our local values stand in sharp contrast to those in some other parts of the country. Already in 2025, more than 525 pieces of anti-LGBTQ legislation have been introduced at the state and federal levels across the United States. These bills include efforts to restrict access to gender-affirming care, limit discussions of LGBTQ topics in our schools, and often specifically seek to harm transgender friends and neighbors in our communities. While not all of these bills will become law, their mere introduction reflects a coordinated and unprecedented wave of legislative hate against the LGBTQ community nationwide. Recent setbacks, like the removal of the Pulse Memorial Sidewalk, a memorial to the victims of gun violence in Orlando, by a bigoted governor seeking to the praise and approval of an administration and far-right political movement that has increasingly centered hate as part of its platform, highlights just how important it is that our community remains committed to inclusivity, remembrance, and pride. In times when LGBTQ rights are under threat elsewhere, or frankly, just up the street at our university's hospital, we must remember to honor, protect, and uplift LGBTQ rights here at home, and never stop fighting for them. Finally, today is especially important because as we celebrate our history and honor these leaders, we are also looking toward the future. From this day forward, whenever LGBTQ young people, our next generation of leaders, pass by or visit their city hall, they can read about our history and see themselves reflected in it. As integral contributors to our city's success, as people who are valued, respected, and celebrated, and who can someday earn their own place in our history books. Thank you all for joining us here today. And at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce our mayor, a man that I am proud to call a friend and an unshakable ally to our community, Mayor Christopher Taylor.
Thank you very much. As Clerk Boudry and Mayor Pro Tem Medina have said, this, well, when elected officials stand here and talk about good things that the city is doing, it is truly stolen valor. Everything we do at the City of Ann Arbor is done by our amazing staff, and so I want to echo the great thanks that Councilmember Medina and our great staff member, Clerk Boudry, have extended. We are so grateful as elected officials in the community for everything that it is that you do. Today I will be brief. Today we reflect upon and we honor the courage of individuals and the values of a community. Viewed in a clear lens, we see a contemporary America that tilts towards dystopia, where academia, the rule of law, public health, our climate future, and so many dear and personal rights are under concerted and relentless threat. Without shying from this far truth, our gathering today and this marker, I believe, provides some hopeful context to that grim reality. Our LGBTQ community members remain tremendously vulnerable, and we fight for their right to be and to love. But we also know that their experience and their condition today remains vastly different and better than their predecessors. This undeniable and joyous progress is the result of the work done by untold thousands of regular people, like Councilmembers DeGrieck, Wechsler, Kozachenko, and our amazing Jim Toy, who stood up and demanded recognition and demanded change. That work has also been performed by communities like Ann Arbor, who were true to the righteous values of diversity, equity, and I dare say it, inclusion. Today's unveiling of this marker emphasizes that progress has a name, a place, and a history, and that we are inspired to do more when we remember it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Taylor. Thank you for your leadership. Now it is my honor to welcome Timothy Chester. Timothy Chester is a member of the Michigan Historical Commission and Director Emeritus of the Grand Rapids Public Museum. Tim is a graduate of the University of Michigan, receiving his MA in American Studies and Museum Studies. Mr. Chester.
Thank you, Councilman. It's a pleasure to be here on behalf of the Michigan Historical Commission. I wanted briefly to give this historical marker a context for you. The Michigan Historical Commission was given the task of starting a state historical marker program to hold up stories of Michigan's people that deserve remembering all around our state. That program started in 1955, and it has grown to be now over more than 1,800 markers across the state. And as that program has moved from being just about cultural tourism to being about placemaking and understanding and educating people in our state's history, we have also moved as an organization in starting to think about, is all of the information on our markers historically accurate? Has new history and new research changed our understanding of events? And so we are in the midst of assessing all 1,800 markers. In many cases, rewriting and rethinking many of them with the help of the communities in which the markers are located. Finally, we realize that there are many stories in our state which no longer have champions. And those stories still need to be told. And we looked at our broad range of markers and realized about 2 years ago that there was, to our shock, not a single LGBTQ plus history marker in our state. So we pondered, what are we going to do about this? And then out of the blue, the heavens opened, and the Ann Arbor City Clerk contacted us and said, we want to do a marker. And we said to ourselves, privately, of course, and quietly, they said, this marker has actually come from the city clerk's office. And we said that because, by and large, our experience has sometimes been that city government is not usually interested in historic markers. Quite the opposite, they can be against it. So the fact that this came out of the city clerk's office and that they expressed a desire that the marker was going to tell two important stories and be plunked right in front of Ann Arbor City Hall in one of the most public of spots filled all of the commissioners with joy. So I just want to tell you that story. We, of course, studied all of the carefully prepared historical materials, which were footnoted and done with extreme historical accuracy. We approved the marker, and then our student workers from the graduate program of historic preservation at Eastern Michigan University who write the text, they took this folder, this binder of information and condensed it down so it would fit on two sides of this marker, which are literally cast in metal. So there is no room for grammatical error or bad punctuation. We like to say it's cast in bronze, but that would be a lie. It's cast in aluminum. It's a lot more durable. But after ensuring its accuracy, the text is sent down to a small family-owned foundry in southern Ohio that produces all of the markers for all 50 states and also for all of the Canadian provinces. So you kind of have to wait in line while they hand cast these things in sand, again, making sure that the grammar is correct and the commas are in the right place. And you know, we have to be careful about those Oxford commas. They always rise up to bite us. But this marker will be here, we hope, for a long time. Sometimes markers get vandalized by accident or by intent, in which case everyone will rise up and replace the marker and put it back again, because you cannot erase history. You can interpret it, you can call attention to it, but you cannot erase it. And this landmark work that happened here in Grand Rapids had a huge effect on life in this state and even in other states. And it's a pleasure for me personally being here, because I was one of those people who benefited from people like Jim Toy and all of the people who worked on creating the Human Rights Ordinance in Grand Rapids and electing the first LGBTQ officials in this town. They were pathfinders. And we often say we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. But as a graduate student here in the late 1970s, my professors said to me, the university is always interested in your full body and full mind education. And we feel the need to tell you that the university has a pathfinding gay and lesbian office, which you might, if we're reading you correctly, you might want to take advantage of. And so after freaking out and thinking about it, I did, and of course it completely changed my life. So I stand here as the first openly gay member of the Michigan Historical Commission, something that never would have happened without the pathfinding that happened here in Ann Arbor. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Now it is my pleasure to introduce my friend and successor at the Jim Toy Center, Joe Halsh. Joe is president of the Jim Toy Community Center Board of Directors, helped to lead the community center to recovery after the COVID-19 pandemic, has overseen the incredible expansion of Ann Arbor Pride throughout our downtown, and recently celebrated the grand reopening of the community center on Main Street. Mr. Halsh.
When I stand here today as a community member and the executive director of the Jim Toy Community Center, I think about what it must have felt like in 1973. Nancy Wechsler and Jerry DeGrieck sat on this very council and said out loud who they really were. They didn't know what would happen next, but they did know that silence was not an option. And because of that, history was made right here in Ann Arbor. A year later, Kathy Kozachenko was the first openly LGBTQ+ candidate elected to office in the United States. Together, yes. Together with Jim Toy and the Human Rights Party, they pushed for Ann Arbor's Pride Resolution and expanded our Human Rights Ordinance to protect sexual orientation. Their courage changed history, and it reminds us of something vital. Progress comes from when people step forward, even when it's hard, even when it's dangerous. Because today, across Michigan and across this country, LGBTQ+ people are once again living in fear. Parents wonder how they can keep their kids and families safe. Couples wonder if their marriages will remain legal and recognized. Students wonder if they'll be welcomed back on their campuses. And all of us wonder, will our rights hold? Even here in Ann Arbor, our so-called safe bubble, we are not safe. We see it in the rollbacks of diversity, equity, and inclusion in our businesses and universities. We see it in Michigan Medicine's decision to end gender-affirming care for people under 19. We see it in the very real questions of marriage equality being presented once again to the Supreme Court. These are not distant threats. They are happening here and now. But there is good news. Jim, Kathy, Nancy, and Jerry didn't have the perfect plan. They weren't superheroes. They were people like me and you, people with love, people with passion, people who believe in the power of community. I see their courage to echo every day when someone finds a safe space at the Jim Toy Center, when a family feels supported, and a young person realizes they are not alone. This marker tells us where we've been, but it also asks the question, where will we go from here? Let our answer be clear. We will not go back. We will not be erased. We will keep moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Before we continue, I'd like to take a moment again to acknowledge former council member Nancy Wechsler, who, while not able to be here with us in person today, played an integral role in LGBTQ history alongside our next speaker, Jerry DeGrieck. Nancy and Jerry served on the Ann Arbor City Council from 1972 to 1974 as members of the Human Rights Party. They worked with LGBTQ rights pioneer Jim Toy to declare the first officially designated Gay Pride Week in the United States here in Ann Arbor in June of 1972, and worked alongside him again to co-author and pass our city's Human Rights Ordinance, ensuring that Ann Arbor would become one of the first municipalities in our country to outlaw discrimination based on sexual orientation. On October 17, 1973, they became the first openly gay and lesbian public officials serving in the United States when they came out to highlight the importance of enforcement of that very ordinance. Please join me in welcoming former City Council member Jerry DeGrieck.
Thank you, Travis. It's great to be back in Ann Arbor. I am glad to see that protest is still here and strong in Ann Arbor. That is great news. I also wanted to just take a moment to say that my family is all on the West Coast, so they can't be here. But all of my family, including my 2 adult children, are with me in spirit and in my heart. They are the joys of my life. I also want to take a moment to remind folks that back in 1972, when Nancy and I were first elected, not only were we kind of unusual in that we were from the Human Rights Party, a third political party, and we had a radical platform and politics, we were also unusual because we were so young. And it's so important that young people be involved today, progressive young people running for office, being active politically. So if there are young people out there, please go for it. So, good morning, Mayor Taylor, Ann Arbor City Council members, including Travis, thank you so much. State of Michigan officials who are responsible for, and all who are responsible for recognizing the contributions of the Human Rights Party, which I'll also refer to as HRP, in advancing LGBTQ liberation. I want to thank my HRP colleagues, present or not, and Susan Steigerwald back there is present. Thank you, Susan. And a special personal shout out to my fellow council member for 2 years, Nancy Wechsler. We experienced so much together. She is in Boston and unfortunately cannot join us for this event, but Nancy is with us in spirit. So let's give her a round of applause. Another round of applause for Nancy. And of course, thank you to Kathy Kozachenko, who succeeded Nancy on the council, who had kind of a lonely time being the only HRP city council member. So HRP was a team. What we accomplished together. I want to share a little of my personal journey that led to some of the events noted on the historical marker. But first, it is impossible for me to think about those events without reflecting on the current state of our country, as so many of the other speakers have. We are experiencing backsliding in our rights and freedoms, and are threatened by 1984-style authoritarianism that adheres to no democratic norms or constitutional constraints. Science and facts no longer matter, immigrants and trans people are demonized, and the histories of marginalized people are erased or distorted. We are living in a time when even recognizing diversity of any kind is met with hostility and unwarranted attacks. This can feel overwhelming, and that is how those who would roll back our rights want us to feel. But I have learned that perseverance, taking up the causes and fighting the causes and fighting the fights you can when you can, working with others who share your aims, building coalitions rather than fostering divisions, voting, and engaging in protest and advocacy can make a difference. It is important that we champion democracy and the rights of all people and celebrate LGBTQ progress in history. So hats off to the city of and people of Ann Arbor for honoring its role in that history. Round of applause for the city and the people of Ann Arbor. For me, the events of more than a half a century ago that we are commemorating today are personal as well as political. My life has been shaped by how I was able to express who I was, starting from an early age, even though I could not be who I was. I grew up in the 1950s and 60s in an all-white, all-Christian suburb in Detroit in a working-class family, in a neighborhood where covenants excluded Black people from residing there. It is an understatement to say it was a place and time when homosexuality was considered abhorrent to the mainstream culture. We were looked upon as less than human. It reminds me how trans people are looked upon today. Their very existence is denied, and the president officially proclaims the scientific falsehood that gender identity is binary and immutable for all of humankind. I knew I was different from an early age, even before I knew what homosexuality was. All the time I was growing up, I felt I couldn't express or act upon being gay. It was my secret that I tried desperately and unsuccessfully to ignore. However, I could and did identify with other groups that were fighting for their rights to be treated as fully human and equal in our country. In the 1960s, I supported the Civil Rights Movement and the lettuce and grape boycotts in solidarity with farm workers. While a senior in high school, ignoring my parents' objections, I attended a speech by Martin Luther King Jr. in my segregated community 2 weeks before he was assassinated. I also campaigned for Bobby Kennedy for president. Political activism was my way of being different and my lifeline for self-expression. Ann Arbor was only 50 miles from where I grew up, but attending the University of Michigan in the fall of 1968 was a goal I had throughout high school. I was the first member of my family to go away to college. During my time at the university, I was active in movements for student power, tenants' rights, anti-war, Black power, feminism, and the rights to sexual minorities. I was elected to the Student Government Council as an independent radical. I learned from people who were more knowledgeable and experienced in leftist politics. We founded the Radical Independent Party in 1971, which merged with the Human Rights Party later that year. HRP advanced a very progressive platform that was ahead of its time on issues such as economic opportunity and justice, workers' rights, countering racism and sexism, healthcare for all, environmental protections, and freedom from genocide, oppression, and exploitation in America and around the world, as well as equality for sexual minorities. These issues are as relevant today, if not more so, than they were in the 1970s. HRP ran a full slate of candidates in the 1972 Ann Arbor City Council election. Surprisingly, certainly to me, by running a truly grassroots door-to-door campaign, Nancy and I were both elected to the council. Neither Nancy nor I ran as openly LGBTQ candidates, although we sought and received the endorsement of the Gay Liberation Front. In partnership with LGBTQ pioneer Jim Toy and the Gay Liberation Front, One of HRP's most important accomplishments during Nancy's and my first year on the council was to expand the city's human rights ordinance to cover sexual minorities against discrimination in housing, employment, and public accommodations. And I was reminded today that that is actually a criminal offense, not just a civil offense. So well done. However, in 1972, while I was on the council, I was still in the closet personally. I had wanted to come out for a long time, but I felt I needed to have a gay experience or relationship before I could proclaim my sexuality. In 1971, I had a couple of sessions with a University of Michigan health services psychologist. I asked her to help me to come out, but she said she could only help me if I wanted to be straight. I knew that wasn't what I wanted or needed, so I quit our sessions. At that time, the American Psychiatric Association still classified homosexuality as a mental disorder. During 1973, while I was on the city council, I started my first gay relationship. I was more than ready then to finally come out. Nancy and I knew that the next time an issue involving LGBTQ rights came before the council, we would identify as lesbian and gay. It would be disingenuous not to. That opportunity came in October 1973 at the Rubaiyat nightclub when they stopped lesbians from dancing together and showing affection. Nancy and Kathy were at the Rubaiyat that night. City police officers were called to the scene. Nancy wanted them to enforce the human rights protections we had extended to sexual minorities. The police refused. They were not aware of the extensions of protections for LGBTQ people. At a city council meeting shortly after the incident, Nancy and I confronted the police chief and questioned him about why he had not trained the police to enforce the ordinance. During that council meeting, Nancy and I came out as lesbian and gay. At that time, it did not occur to me that we were the first elected public officials in the United States to openly identify as LGBTQ people. People have said we must have been brave to come out when we did. For me, it was a liberating and exhilarating experience. For 14 years, I hid who I was, and for 6 of those years, I wanted to be gay and out, but didn't know how to or if I ever would. At the end of Nancy's and my 2-year council term in '74, Kathy ran as an out lesbian and became the first openly LGBTQ candidate to be elected to public office in the U.S. Nancy, Kathy, and I have been called trailblazers. I think it is not a coincidence that all 3 of us decided to have children at a time when it was not as prevalent as it is today for LGBTQ people. We weren't going to let our sexual orientation stand in the way of living the lives we wanted to live and fulfilling our dreams. And each of us continued our commitment to progressive political action. We know that none of what we did alone. We were part of the Human Rights Party, and our coming out was made possible by the movement ignited by Stonewall. The historical marker we dedicate today is not just about the history we made over a half century ago. It is a call to action. The forces that seek to undermine our democracy and divide us are strong. But history shows that perseverance, courage, solidarity, and hope accompanied by action are stronger. Progress is never inevitable. It is one defended and expanded by movements and people who refuse to accept injustice. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. With luck, hopefully we'll be granted a reprieve from some of the beeping next door. But next, I am honored to introduce Kathy Kozachenko. On April 2nd, 1974, Kathy, then a University of Michigan student, was elected to the Ann Arbor City Council from Ward 2 by just 52 votes. and upon the occasion of her election, she became the first openly gay or lesbian person elected to public office in the United States. Kathy, also a member of the Human Rights Party, was often a caucus of one and critical vote on a council that was heavily divided between Democrats and Republicans. Kathy was an outspoken advocate for human and civil rights, a champion of tenants' rights, and a fighter for social and economic justice. While like her HRP predecessors, her time on council was short, the simple act of running for and winning the seat while being true to her identity has cemented her and our city in our history books. It is my honor to welcome former Councilmember Kathy Kozachenko.
I can assure you that when I was elected 52 years ago, I never thought I would be here today giving a speech. Good morning. I want to thank you all for being here. Mayor Taylor, Councilman Redina, City Clerk Beaudry, council members, and all those responsible for the plaque and for this event this morning. I also want to thank the Jim Torrey Community Center for the continued work they do. Lastly, to my family and friends, those here and those who are not, thank you for your love and support over many years. I came to Ann Arbor in 1970. I was 18 years old, ready to take part in the actions of the 60s that were still very much alive on the campus. In high school, I was minimally active. I signed up to work for Bobby Kennedy's presidential campaign. His assassination devastated me, and I did not participate further in the elections. I learned about the United Farm Workers as they picketed our local grocery store, urging shoppers not to buy grapes. My father would not allow me to join the pickets, so I organized an informational meeting in our town where a representative of the farm workers came to talk about the grape boycott, the pay, and the working and living conditions of the farm workers. I discovered in the Human Rights Party an organization that shared my values and articulated a plan forward. We were part of the women's movement, the gay movement, the protest against the Vietnam War. We supported the Black Power movement, trade union actions, and worked for welfare rights and a living wage. We made decisions collectively and fought for social and economic justice. I would not be the person I am today had I not been a part of that radical, dynamic, and democratic organization. I am forever indebted. Jerry, thank you. And that's for all of the people that worked with me. Jerry DeGrieck, Nancy Wechsler, and I are named on this plaque, but our achievements reflect the dedication and hard work of the many individuals who comprise the Human Rights Party. When I was elected in 1974, I was a lesbian on a campus that rejoiced in it, but in a country that had repressive laws still on the books. A country that, for the most part, did not celebrate or highlight diversity. Perhaps that strikes a disquieting chord, a country that does not celebrate or highlight diversity. Although I personally did not experience intolerance, I knew that being gay was not accepted in most parts of the country. We were invisible or reviled. There were no lesbians or gay men on TV. We were not part of the societal norm. Let's take a walk for a minute through the history of LGBTQ rights. In 1962, Illinois was the first state to decriminalize private, consensual, same-sex activity. 10 years later, East Lansing became the first city to ban discrimination in municipal hiring. That same year, Jerry DeGrieck and Nancy Wechsler introduced legislation that protected lesbians, gay men, and transgender persons from discrimination in housing, public accommodations, and employment. The District of Columbia expanded that legislation and passed it in 1973, including education to the categories where discrimination was banned. In 1974, the Massachusetts Superior Court ruled that homosexuality was legal. In 1974, 2 out lesbians were elected to public office for the first time. In April, I was elected to the Ann Arbor City Council. In November, Elaine Noble was elected to the Massachusetts House of Representatives. We might think that progress continued slowly through the years. That might be true. However, 21 years after my election, 13 states, including Texas and Michigan, had laws on the books that made consensual same-sex activity a crime. A Texas case went to the Supreme Court, and the court in 2003 ruled that these laws were unconstitutional. Progress was not quick, and today that progress is threatened. Don't Say Gay laws muzzle discussion of sexual orientation and gender identity in some school districts through the 12th grade. Transgender persons are being denied access to appropriate health care. Drag queens face threats and violence. Books depicting LGBTQ families, like mine, are being banned. Gay marriage will come before the Supreme Court. We are not the only group being attacked. Since the repeal of Roe versus Wade, in many states, a woman and her doctor cannot make decisions about her health care during a pregnancy. Women have been denied care in emergency rooms and have died. In restaurants where they work and on city streets, immigrants with no criminal backgrounds are rounded up by armed and masked ICE agents. Some were sent to a torture prison in El Salvador. 22-year-old Brandon Segueran Cruz, guilty of nothing, is there today. Read his story on the website The Disappeared, the-disappeared.com. Many others are warehoused in for-profit prisons where there is inadequate food, inhumane living conditions, and no due process. Across the world, bombs rain down on starving civilians in Gaza. Our government does nothing. We watch a red carpet being rolled out for Putin as Russia continues to attack Ukraine. We must work in whatever ways we can to take back our country. Elections for judges, state offices, school boards, and municipalities are all important. Vote for those who will stand up for our rights, those who will fight for democracy, protect the right to peacefully protest, and staunchly preserve the division of church and state. Elections are only one way to create change. Mass movements demanding justice are equally important. Broad-based organizations call on us to demonstrate and make our voices heard. We must work with strength, determination, and the compassion of our common humanity. We can do no less. I want to end by saying to my queer community, we are called upon to defend our legal rights and the rights of others who are under attack. But we are also called upon to be who we are in all of our splendid rainbow colors and in the beautiful diversity of gender. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. We are so grateful for you and for all of today's honorees. At this time, I want to express our deep appreciation to each and every one of you for your lasting contributions to our community, and ask everyone to once again thank all of our honorees today. Soon, we will transition to the marker for the unveiling. While our city staff and camera crew begin to transition, I'd like to welcome Autumn Rose, who will perform 2 songs for us today, after which we will all move up to the marker. Autumn Rose is a queer, BIPOC, trans, Ann Arbor-based singer, rapper, songwriter, and instrumentalist. She has worked with organizations such as Out Loud Chorus. In her free time, you can find Autumn engaging in political activism to support marginalized groups, making extravagant culinary inventions, or immersed in musical projects. Please join me in welcoming Autumn Rose.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, the warm welcome. I'm Autumn Rose. I'm honored to be here in Ann Arbor, my home, performing at such a historic and important event that quite literally cements a symbol of human rights in our wonderful city. For the people who don't know me and what I do, I'm a local musician, vocal coach, and songwriter who specializes in singing, rapping, and playing the piano. I run Phoenix Music Solutions, where I perform music, speeches, and comedy, along with emceeing for public and private events. I'll be passing out business cards afterwards if you'd like to connect or network. The songs I'm sharing tonight, This Is Me from The Greatest Showman and Rise Up by Andra Day, are about unapologetic individuality, resilience, facing adversity, fighting for equality, and about lifting each other up. These messages can resonate deeply with all of us, especially now when the rights of trans and queer people, women, immigrants, Black, brown, and indigenous people who can get pregnant, disabled people, neurodivergent people, and so many other countless marginalized groups are under attack. I say this all because I recognize the importance of using my voice to stand up for what's right, particularly at this tumultuous time when it's so easy to give up hope. I will always be the one to remind people that our very existence is resistance. And I'll be blunt. Girl, as a Black, biracial, trans, queer, and neurodivergent woman, I've got a lot of skin in the game, and I can't stay silent when it comes to fighting for equality and dignity. That said, I hope these songs remind you that your story matters, your voice matters, your freedom matters, and like Andra Day wisely wrote, we will rise. Thank you. I'm not a stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your different parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, I'm gonna send a flood, I'm gonna drown them out. 'Cause I am trans, I am brave, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me, look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. Woo! Whoa, 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 whoa. Another round of bullets hits my skin. We'll fire away, 'cause today I won't let the hate sink in. We are bursting through the barricades and reaching for the sun. We are warriors, yeah, that's what we become. I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. When the sharpest words wanna cut me down, We're gonna send the flood, gonna drown them out. 'Cause we are queer, we are strong, we are who we're meant to be. This is me, look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me, whoa. Whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. This is me, and I know that I deserve your love. There's nothing I'm not worthy of. Whoa, and the sharpest words wanna cut us down. We're gonna send the flood, we're gonna drown them out. We have pride, we have food, we are who we're meant to be. Come and see. Look out, 'cause here I go. Marching on, marching on. Apologies, this is me. Whoa, I'm gonna send a flood. This is me. Thank you. You're broken down and tired, living life on a merry-go-round, and you can't find the fighter, but I see it in you, so we can walk it out. Mountains, we can walk it out. I'll rise like the day, and I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up. And I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, ride like the waves, and I'll rise up. In spite of the ache, I'll rise up. And I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. When the silence isn't quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe, and I know you feel like dying, but I promise we'll bring the world to its feet. Move, mountains, bring it to its feet. Move, mountains, and I'll rise up, rise like the day, and I'll rise up. I'll rise unafraid, I'll rise up. And I'll do it 1,000 times again. For you, for you, for you, for you. All we need is hope. And for that we have each other. For that we have each other. We will rise. We will rise. For that we have each other. Whoa. And I'll rise up. like the day. I'll rise up, rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, rise like the day, and I'll rise up. In spite of the ache, I'll rise up, and I'll rise 1,000 times again for you, for you. Oh, you will rise. Oh, we stand together.
Thank you. All right, so if everybody wants to head up the walking path here, we'll do the unveiling. You'll see it up on the.
Ready. All right. 3, 2, 1.
Right.
All right.